Limp Bizkit saying the contracts should get torn up as if they never existed. Breach in contract, fraudulent concealment, fraudulent business practices. The attorneys went to war. Guys, yikes. The jury is gonna get confused. I gotta be honest, if I'm Limp Bizkit, I'm sweating a little on this. The two ways that I think the band get paid the most is through... You know, I'm seeing this reported as great news for Limp Bizkit, but I'm looking at this, I'm like, is it? So I guess good news, bad news. This is in regards to the $200 million or up to $200 million lawsuit filed by Limp Bizkit for a laundry list of claims against Universal. And on that list was one of the most jaw-dropping claims, which is Limp Bizkit, one of the most famous rock bands. And as I understand it, aren't they on an upswing right now? Aren't they about to go on tour, opening for Metallica, resurging into the mainstream? And the claim was that they had never received any royalties whatsoever from Universal. And having signed with Universal back in what, the 90s? That would mean that the band allegedly is still unrecouped, meaning Universal's paid all these expenses towards advances, marketing, tours, and it's been more than what the band has earned for, well, the last, 25 years? So basically, breach of contract. The band was claiming all kind of accounting nonsense by Universal, basically saying Universal is actively and intentionally making it impossible, not just for us, Limp Bizkit, not just for me, Fred Durst, to actually even get statements, but alleging that Universal was in fact doing this to try to prevent them from receiving their royalties, saying it's this greater scheme that Universal is doing this to prevent other artists from actually getting paid their royalties. I'm getting so far ahead of myself. I'm a music attorney. Be sure to subscribe right now if you like these deep dives in all things music business news. And if you're a music creator yourself and you want to figure out ways to monetize your music and make money, I have a free PDF, which is the 35 ways to make money, and that is linked for you down below in the description. All right, so the last we heard from the court, there is a claim for rescission by the band. So basically saying there are 3 contracts that have been signed to date, 3 record label agreements, and the band and Fred Durst saying, court, we want you to basically tear up the contracts. We want them rescinded because we think there's been a total failure of Universal to ever do anything whatsoever. And we kind of looked at that, we go, this is a tough claim. Because has Universal not done anything ever for you? Well, arguably they did something, right? And in fact, Limp Bizkit lost on that claim. Now, here's the thing. The court not only said you lose on this claim, but also said this claim is then tied to copyright infringement, okay? So basically, if there was no contract, then Universal exploiting their music is now copyright infringement. So that's how this complaint was teed up. And so when the court came back and said, all right, nope, can't do the rescission, kicking that out. So therefore, the court also kicked out the copyright infringement claims, which carries statutory damages. These are the big bucks that could potentially be sought from Universal. But the court said, I'm going to give you a deadline. You need to convince me why your copyright infringement claims should be allowed to proceed. So then the attorneys went to war. All right, so we pulled the docket. There was a motion to dismiss filed, and then an opposition to the motion to dismiss, followed by a reply in support to the motion to dismiss, and we have the court's ruling. All right, so before the court is the motion to dismiss. So with respect to what Universal asked the court to do in this motion to dismiss, Universal says, hey, as part of these 3 agreements, which actually the court references, so Limp Bizkit, which is also the owner of Flawless, that's an imprint, plaintiff. Limp Bizkit's claims revolve around 3 agreements. 2 of those agreements involve the production, creation, distribution of music featuring Limp Bizkit. This was in a 1996 recording agreement between Durst and other Limp Bizkit members of the band and Flip Records Incorporated. So this is the Flip agreement, under which Flip Records and later Interscope Records released the first 3 Limp Bizkit albums, and a December 2000 recording agreement between Durst and other Limp Bizkit band members on the one hand and Interscope on the other, under which Interscope released subsequent Limp Bizkit recordings. Okay, and then like I said, there were 3 agreements, and then the third one came in 1999. So the point is, Limp Bizkit is doing deals, and there was allegedly something like 40 million plus paid to Limp Bizkit in signing bonuses. And this isn't free money, right? This is one of our criticisms / clarity points for creatives who are signing with record labels. And the record label will use the advance to get the artist to sign, because they'll say, hey, I'm going to give you $100,000. I'll give you $1 million. I'll give you $40 million. And so you sign these contracts, you give us ownership of your music. We are exclusive till probably the end of time. But that's not free money. That's an advance. So we're like, the record label is just acting like the bank. That amount of money is a loan. It needs to be paid back. So the argument is, well, if, let's say, Universal has paid more than 40 million, let's say they paid 50 million, 100 million for all the things to support the band. If the label has not recouped from the earnings from the band, well, then the record label doesn't owe any royalties to Fred Durst, to the band, right? Now, what came out as part of this process? Well, and in fact, let's actually go back to the order, because I think he actually mentions this, and he does. So he goes, in April of 2024, Durst retained, I think, a new lawyer, new representation, and explained that he had not received any money from Universal for any of the band's songs. Plaintiff's new business manager contacted defendant on April 9th, 2024, stating that plaintiff had not received any royalty statements and requested access to Universal's portal to view them. Do you guys remember this? So this is where it was like in the initial response that Universal filed, because, you know, Limp Bizkit's all like, hey, we hired our business manager and he sent this big old demand. We can't get access. You guys are trying to hide the ball and all this. And Universal came back in its motion to dismiss and said, hey, we literally reached out to your business manager a year ago. And we said, hey, we have money for the band. And we were told, no, the band, Fred Durst, have sold their rights. So basically, like, the money doesn't come to us. So that didn't look so great. And then at which point Universal has coughed up about 1 million, right, that was owed and paid. This was sent at this time and paid to the band. And then there was about 2.3 million, which was paid, right, to the imprint Flawless Records. So what the attorneys have been duking it out over this motion to dismiss has to do with, well, one of the agreements that Limp Bizkit signed says, if you got a problem, you have to go and deal with it in a New York court. Right now, we're in the Central District Court of California. So this is one of the things that the attorney goes, this is the wrong forum. In the court's order, the court goes through this and is like, look, for all of your state claims that are specific to, apparently, New York law, if and when this gets to a jury, the jury is going to get confused because they are going to be California people trying to analyze some of these claims through New York law and then some of them through California law. There's a reason why with these 3 different contracts, some of these claims have to be hashed out in New York. Some of these claims have to be hashed out here in California. So you remember I said at the beginning of this, everyone's like, yay, this is a great thing. The case is continuing on. Well, sort of. So the federal court in California goes, it is declining to hear the state law claims. That means Limp Bizkit has to go and refile all of these state law claims. Now, there are ones that the court is allowing, okay? So reviving from the dead are the copyright claims. And the court does say, it's like, you know what? I was a little too hasty. When I looked at the rescission claims, I kind of rubber stamped it and I was like, no, it doesn't look like Universal didn't do anything for you. So therefore, looks like the contracts are going to stay in place. And therefore, the basis of your copyright infringement claims is gone. So I am now reversing that because I do think I need to look at this a little more closely. Okay, so that is good. So back from the dead are the copyright claims and those can continue. So that is a good thing. But Fred Durst, Limp Bizkit, they're going to have to refile the majority of the claims now, right? So these state claims in California State Court, in New York State Court. So that means, like, if I'm representing Limp Bizkit, I'm their day-to-day, entertainment attorney. What I'm telling them is I'm like, guys, yikes. This just got a lot more expensive because we have to now refile and initiate multiple cases in multiple jurisdictions. Now, what I am going to say is yay, because now the copyright claims, we have another bite at the apple. And if we can be successful on these copyright infringement claims, we get statutory damages up to $150,000 per instance of infringement. That gets us usually into the millions of dollars. But Again, those claims are based on the band saying the contracts should get torn up as if they never existed. I don't know if they're going to win on that. Now, back to the whole, well, what about the royalties, right? So if we had over $1 million paid to the band, $2.3 million paid to Flawless Records, now obviously Limp Bizkit is arguing so much more than that is owed, right, in the allegedly hundreds of millions of dollars. And I suppose you can argue at least they have a little bit of a fund to fund this litigation, but this just got a lot more complicated, a lot more expensive. And remember, the claims are breach in contract, fraudulent concealment, fraudulent business practices, copyright infringement. The two ways that I think the band has a potential to get paid the most is through the copyright infringement claims as well as through the underpayment. I personally have a really hard time believing that the band only recently recouped so that they could receive the royalties that they received. Other than that, who's a fan of Limp Bizkit? Leave a comment down below. What's your favorite song? I'm Top Music Attorney, and I'll see you on the next one.